This is a post-Christian podcast.
Welcome to the Revolution Church podcast.
All right. Hey, everybody. Coming to you live from the bunker. Somewhere in Minnesota. Undisclosed. That's why we have the black background so no one can tell where we're at. I saw a tweet saying that every pastor right now is trying to keep their video from looking like a Bin Laden video. And we've just did the exact opposite and tried to make it look just like one. We got the nice yellow mic today. How's everybody doing out there? Are you guys holding up all right? It's funny because it's being here. I can't, no speakers, no lights, no nothing. But Bryant Lake Bowl is closed right now, which is really tough for them because all the servers and stuff are having a rough time. But it's a tough time for a lot of us right now. So hope you guys are doing well and staying inside. I think that's the best thing we can all do. It's been kind of tough with me. I know some of you are also parents, having kids. I live in an apartment, so, a small apartment, and trying to keep my kids from going stir crazy. They run down the hallway every now and then, that's the weird thing about trying to quarantine in an apartment complex, because you're quarantined with like 100 other people that you don't know. And you hope they're washing their hands. Enjoying the weekend home, working from home and trying to help the kids with schooling. Yeah, I know. Everybody has to be teachers now too. Well, here we are, the dream we all dream of. So, I was thinking, it's kind of tough and strange time to be a pastor and of church. And, I know a lot of folks are maybe looking for answers, and I can't say I have any answers. Extremely strange times. I've talked to a few people, and I said, it's just really odd because I've heard, growing up with my dad, especially after he went to prison, he kind of became obsessed with the end times. And so he would always talk to me about these type of scenarios happening. And, of course, I always kind of rolled my eyes and thought he was crazy. And, he would talk to me about grocery stores being overrun and banks being overrun. And I was like, yeah, Dad, that's sure. And I'm not saying was right, but I'm just saying we're here, and it's kind of bizarre, right? Kind of bizarre. A lot of contradictions out there, a lot of strange things to think about. And then like the spring breakers are out there, which is just I can't even grasp what those kids are doing. But it's happening all over the world. I saw a special last night in Australia, and everybody was on the beach. So, I hope the world can kind of get together and we can unite and encourage each other to stay home. But listen to some good records, listen to some good music. I've been reading a lot of articles from my favorite musicians and interviews and things like that. I get really a lot of inspiration from people, like Joe Strummer and Sinead O'Connor and John Lydon. For some reason, those guys all encourage me, so I've been reading a lot of that. And then Pete's just turned me on to some really good podcasts, something called Why Theory. Kind of trying to listen to some stuff that'll open my mind and give me more material to talk to you guys here. But it's just funny. I think it's just ironic, honestly. I think it's funny because I've watched Christians do stuff like say, like, we get mad when Christians don't react well, and they're like, oh, this is just being overblown. And then we get mad at the Christians who are like in the bunkers too, We're not as very satisfied people as human beings. We always like to find faults, don't we? Oh, the Belfast kids aren't staying in either. Stay in, kids. Yeah, I'm really bummed. I was looking forward to Belfast in April, and the event got shut down, and I'm guessing travel won't be open by then. I wish they were, because I would really love to go to Belfast, and because I've got other work there as well to do. Me and some folks are working on some documentary stuff. So anyway, let's talk about church. Let's be church. I'm going to be a church today. So I'm going to turn to the worship band.
Piano in here.
Do you have a piano?
Yeah, I could have started playing some intro music.
I'm in Caleb's bedroom, and Caleb is just sitting in his bed. He's my audience right now.
Private sermon today, dude.
Yeah. So
I never thought I'd be laying in bed with a broken ankle, Jay Bakker preaching just to me in front of me.
Audience of one.
Yeah. It's not God, it's just me.
Yep. God couldn't make it today. Here we go. Boop. Oh, nope, we're in Romans. We're going to be in Romans 8 if you're following along. What's up, Travis? Hope you're doing well, buddy. So we're in Romans today, Romans 8. And hello, New Zealand. Hope you guys are staying safe, keeping inside. So, trying to prepare a sermon when we're all going through this together. I mean, the great thing about this, there's not many great things about this, but it is strange that as a collective, as a whole world, we are going through something together. And we're all going through this trauma as a community. And, so many of us go through traumas at different times, separately, and it's hard for us to empathize with one another. And I think this is one of the greatest examples of worldwide empathy, being able to share one another's pains and burdens, as the Bible talks about, and Galatians talked about sharing one another's burdens. We're able to really relate to one another and maybe come together. I mean, I feel like we've been living in this, especially in the States, it's been so divided politically. And now it's this virus has kind of somehow brought us together to see things differently. And it seems like we're not just all focused on politics and who's good and who's bad and all that stuff, but just trying to survive. And yeah, we do, Ray. We do see how small the world is. And my hope is that we do come out of this better people. Unfortunately, we're losing a lot of people too, and that's very sad. So I was looking at Romans, the book of Romans, and Paul talking about persecution of Christians, and that's not really where I'm going. I'm going to try to take a step back and look at this in a wider way. But we're going to kind of use it a little bit just to see what Paul the Apostle had to say to us, or saying to the Romans, and see if we can somehow work it into our current predicament. In Romans 8:36, it says, as it is written, for your sake we are being killed all day long. We are accounted as sheep to be the slaughtered. Now that's a little downer, but that's not what I want to focus on. Hello, Mexico and Alabama. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, nor angels, no rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. Now, let's not just go literal with this. Let's step back and see what we can take out of this as general idea. And the idea is that it's saying no matter how much we suffer, no matter if we die, if we get sick, what we go through, the fact is that the idea of grace is always there. You are always accepted. That God's love is always there. Now, we've talked about this before of what do I love when I love my God? And we love each other. Right now, we're in a place where we're able to love each other in a way that's pretty clear, is by staying home, by keeping others safe. One of the things, our daycare is still open for my kids, but they meet at where they go is also a care center for the elderly. And so me and my ex-wife have decided to pull the kids out and just take care of them. So when I have them all day. When Karen has them, she has them all day, because we just really want the people to be safe. And so these are the sacrifices that we can make for one another and show love for one another and show grace for one another by staying at home. Now, there's ways to communicate with people through Zoom or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or all these different ways, and encourage each other. And I think that's important. I think it's important that we stay connected and we talk to one another and we share things like books we're reading and albums we're doing and work that we're working on. I mean, this is a great time to, kind of focus on what are you working on? Are you an artist? It's a great time to do art. It's a great time to study and read. I know that a lot of us are going to binge Netflix shows, and, I've been binging just reading articles about punk rock musicians. But at the same time, it's a good time to focus on maybe learning things and growing a little bit on how can we come out better? How can we come out of this stronger? A lot of people have felt empty in their jobs and empty in their lives. And how do we, maybe use this as a time to reimagine who we can be and reimagine who we are, and not let the idea of following our dreams and our passions seem like a ridiculous thing anymore. A lot of people want to steal that from us. A lot of people want to take vision away. A lot of people want to take, or we laughed at our dreams, or we thought our dreams were impossible. But I think this might be a good time to refocus that. Refocus those dreams, refocus those things. And I love this idea that, we're all having to love from a distance. And this is something that I had talked about with Sean a little bit in the past. How do we love from a distance when we have toxic people in our lives and things like that? But you know what? The great thing is we can, this is a perfect time to love your enemies, because you don't have to be around them. Maybe this is a perfect time to read a book on forgiveness, or read a book on love, or read a book on those ideas, or reach out to friends and talk to them, or maybe even reach out to an enemy, and text and tweet and have those things. Because ultimately, this idea of love that's causing us to separate from one another gives us an ability to love even more, because we're not have to put ourselves at a physical risk. We're not having to put ourselves in a really strange situation. So I think that's a positive way of looking at it. One of the things I've always liked about this verse is in the New Living, it said, not even the depths of hell can separate us from the love of God. Nothing can separate us from that love. And if we are to live life and live life well, we must learn to love others. Martin Luther King has a quote that said, we may have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. And so we're all in the same boat now. And if that quote ever meant anything, I think it means more now than it ever has. is that we are a community, a world community of humans trying to figure out how to love one another. And there's clear things to do that. It's not always clear. We're always, how do I love them? How do I do that? It's clear saying, love each other, stay home, don't put anybody in danger, be careful, and wash your hands. I'm touching my face like a million times because I have a beard, so I'm a bad example. Don't follow my example. But yeah, so these are things we can do to love others and to know that we're loved. And I hope we can all sit within this and find some peace in the fact that we are accepted. That love is there, that something greater than ourselves, love greater than ourselves is there. And it gives us the ability to continue to love others in a really simple, beautiful way. Today, I went through a drive-through and got a drink. And, I just made sure that I thanked the people at the drive-thru for working, and said, listen, I appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much for working. I know it's got to be scary. And both of the folks were really grateful. And they were like, wow, we really appreciate you coming out, and just coming through the drive-thru and continuing to live your life. And so it's a strange connection, walking down the streets, seeing people, keeping social distance. It's a new world. But hopefully it's torn down some of the walls that separate us and opening up new ways for us to talk to one another, because it doesn't matter if you're conservative or Republican or anarchist or Democrat or leftist or, socialist, any of that. We're all going through this together. And the interesting thing is to watch how how taking pieces of capitalism, taking pieces of socialism, taking certain things like this, trying to work out this horrible issue that we're in and situation to try to make it better. And so we're all just kind of, who thought, Donald Trump was going to be like, hey, everybody's going to get $1,000, you know what I mean? And we're going to try to take their, I don't dig the dude, but what I'm saying is, what some people would call socialism is right now what we're having to do. And I think it's pretty incredible that we're just seeing people trying to do the best they can to take care of one another. Could we use better leadership? Yeah, of course. But also we have to lead a little bit too. I'm going to turn over to Philippians. Going to flip over to Philippians. Dad joke. Philippians 4:10-13. I believe, if I took the right notes. Yeah, this is interesting. And we're going to look at the context of this verse as well, which is interesting. I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now last you have received, I have received your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned for me, but had no opportunity to show it. Not that I am referring to being in need, for I have learned to be content with whatever I have. This is Paul. I know what it is to have little, and I know what it is to have plenty. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being well fed and going hungry, or having plenty and being in need. But he says here, he goes, I can do all things through Christ whom strengthens me. And in any case, it was kind of you to share my distress. So the idea of sharing one another's distress, and he's saying we can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But I also want to look at the idea of, just saying that doesn't mean like, oh, Jesus is going to make me happy and everything's going to work out and I can do it. I remember growing up hearing this sermon talk, that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Is like, I can get a Cadillac, I could do a sweet kickflip on my skateboard. I can do all things through Christ. And sadly, when I was a teenager, I had that verse on my skateboard thinking that was going to help me be a better skater. But honestly, this verse is about prison. Paul is in prison and lost everything, and I guess somewhat self-isolating in prison. And he's saying, I can do this. I've been rich, I've been poor, I've had a lot, I've had a little, but I can do this. And he's saying, basically, I'm also sharing the suffering of Christ. And we've got to remember that sometimes that suffering of Christ was feeling abandoned by God, feeling on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? This idea of like feeling completely abandoned by all your loved ones, by God, by all this. And he says, I still can do this because I can connect to that abandonedness. I can connect to that pain. I can connect to these hurts and be one with Christ. And that's really what being centered with Christ is understanding, the suffering of Christ. Lord, take this cup from me if you can. Jesus didn't want to suffer. Jesus didn't want to be crucified. Jesus didn't want to die. And learning to share within that suffering of each other and realize that these moments are, those are the moments that I think really make us. We've got to not try to sugar down or water down the crucifixion and Jesus's pains and doubts. Those are things that we need to learn to connect to. And by connecting to those things, we are able to suffer with Christ. So when he says, I'm one with Christ, I don't just think it's, all frilly-dilly. I think it's saying, I suffer with Christ. I'm going through this. I am not alone. But I do like these ideas of carrying one another's burden, loving your enemies. No matter what's happening, I'm still accepted. I still have that in me. Even when I feel abandoned, I'm actually closer to Christ than when I feel at peace. So we continue to live. Yeah, someone said, the passage from Paul always reminds me of the Stoic philosophers. It doesn't matter what happens, I continue to live my life. And that's all we can do at this point is live our life and live our life well and take care of each other and maybe share some toilet paper with each other. Yeah. So, we're in a moment in time where we are in something that's never happened with our lifetime. In the 1800s, there was something very similar that happened, but we're in something that is bigger than politics. And I'm going to go out and say even further, it's bigger than religion. It's unity. It's uniting us through a shared moment of suffering. And I've always thought that suffering and pain are the great equalizers. I've always felt that way. I don't know how many people I've come from different walks of life who've been through extraordinary amounts of pain. And the one thing that brought us together was able to sit down and talk about our hurts and talk about our losses and talk about the pain. And even though my pain as a white heterosexual male was different than someone who was LGBTQ or someone who, was a person of color or things like that, we were able to sit down and discuss our pain and share in that pain and share in our suffering. And by that way, act as carrying one another's burden. And so we really have a place and time where we're able to do that with one another and share our experiences and our strengths and our hopes and our doubts and our worries and really create a community. And thank God that we have this type of technology where we can communicate with one another, where we can talk to one another, where we can actually be a community. You can put something positive on Twitter. You can put something positive on Instagram. You can put something, or you can put out, hey, I'm suffering. I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do. Does anybody want to freaking Zoom with me? Does anybody want to chat with me? Right now we can still be a community and maybe be a greater community than we've ever been, separate but united. And I think if we're all open to growing from this and learning from this and becoming better human beings, learning how to live well, questioning our political, who we subscribe to politically, questioning those things. Is that what's best? Or, questioning even our own faith and all those things. Are we being tolerant? We can grow and become a better community. So, a great thing about doing this and doing Revolution for me is that we've always been an online community. And so we haven't had to really do any shifts to do that because we've been here. And I remember so long people saying you can't make an online community. It's not real church. And I think the whole world is now realizing is that, online community is our choice right now. And we might be in this for a long run, folks. I mean, this could be, somebody it was like, oh, it's going to be about 2 months, and then I read an article and it was like, this could be about 16 months, or maybe longer. So, we've got a lot ahead of us. It's only been a couple weeks, and so I think it's going to get darker and it's going to get harder and we're all going to be frustrated and nervous, but I think we can be a community and stay a community. It's worked for Evolution. We've done stuff like Meet Your Congregation interviews that have been great. And you can meet your congregation just simply by here, talking to one another, following one another, see who's listening to services, see who's liking them, and follow them on whatever social media you're subscribed to, and allow this to be a time for this community to build. This could be a time for Revolution to really build a community as well, and for our online community to come together and see, hey, maybe we can all come out of this better. Maybe the community can come and say, hey, this is what Revolution needs to do, or this is what we're thinking about Revolution, or we want to do Revolution this way or that way. I would love that because Revolution should be a community. Revolution isn't me. It's not Caleb. It's a collection of us. We are a collection of people working together who are trying to encourage one another, the others, to love each other and at the same time love yourself and find an acceptance in yourself in order to do that love, in order to make peace with each other. You have to find peace with yourself. If you're going to love your neighbor as yourself, you really need to learn to love yourself as well. And, and loving yourself doesn't mean you're perfect or you have it all together. It's just accepting those things. And sometimes accepting even the dark sides. I've got a lot of demons. Learning to look at those and question those and accept those, you might actually find out there's a lot of strengths there that you may have thought were negatives. And for me, that's helped a lot. I asked myself in my notes, I said, what is important? And I just wrote, my first thing that came to me was loving others, and staying in for others. That's the big thing we're pushing right now is staying in. Is a big thing. But also, I think something that's been really beautiful about this whole situation is the church is not a building. Amen. It has been a very long week, by the way. We've taken so much for granted in the States, I think, and in other countries. And it's like we've realized not to do that. For example, truck drivers. How important are truck drivers to our society? At this point, it seems like they're right up there with doctors, grocery store clerks, people who are willing to be there on the front lines so we can feed our families and take care of one another. Obviously nurses and doctors, so it's one of those things where we're really being awoke to not taking life for granted, not taking humanity for granted, and not taking each other for granted. It's like, even just thinking small things like, oh, I want to go see a film. Right now we can't go see a film. I can't go see a show. Every time we walk, you have to walk into a drugstore to get something. You're worried about a person coughing or doing this. And, there's all these little things that we just took for granted, and not even took for granted, that we just didn't even think about. You just run in, pick something up, get out and go, and now we are realizing that we are in a mutual community. Our whole world is based, and we are mutually reliant on one another. We are reliant on grocery store clerks. We are reliant on truck drivers. We are reliant on social media or IT techs, who are doing this stuff. We're reliant on, people who are making podcasts so we can listen. We are, as an introvert, I was like, I don't need anybody. And what I've realized is I need a ton of people. It might not be all close friends, but, in order to take care of my kids, it literally does take a village. And we've realized is that, we've got to not take these folks for granted anymore. It's so funny growing up, in politics, I've always been like, we got to pay teachers better, and we got to pay these people better. And, I wasn't thinking about grocery store clerks. Now the whole giving people $15 an hour, which I've always believed in, but giving workers a livable wage makes a lot more sense now, because we realize how dependent we are on them, how important they are to society and to our lives, and to giving us the things that we need that sustain us, not just, oh, I went to Walmart and picked up some videos, but I went to Walmart and picked up some groceries, or, needed toilet paper, or needed medicine, or needed this, and we just can't do it without these people. They're not expendable. They are cornerstones to our society and to the world that we live in. And I think, unfortunately, it's taken something like this for us to realize how much we need each other, how much we depend on one another. And I think this is why when you look at the Bible and see verses like love your neighbor as yourself, love each other, live a life in unity, try to be on the same page. God lets rain on the just and the unjust. You see all these things of kind of like trying to unify and trying to get us to care about each other. And, we realize we are interdependent on people. And it doesn't matter what their religion is. It doesn't matter what their politics is. What matters is that we need each other. Isn't that great? We need each other. I need the stranger. I need the kindness of the stranger. I didn't realize that the Good Samaritan, was a grocery store clerk. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize, the Good Samaritan was a truck driver, that's, having to leave his family and drive hundreds of miles to make sure that we have the food that we need to eat, or the farmers. I know it's cliche, but at this time, I hope it's to the point where we don't see it just as a cliche, but we see it as something vital. And that we see these humans as vital parts of our society and our world, and that we are able to be grateful for that. I encourage you, when you go to the grocery store, when you do that, tell your grocer, tell the person there, tell the stock person, thank you. Thank you for doing this. It's grateful, because this isn't anything they asked for. These aren't people who signed up to the military to go to war for us, but they're still going to war and putting their lives on the line and lives of their loved ones online in order to be out there and to do this. I think of all the servers and things that we take for granted right now who are suffering because they can't make their tips, because they can't have jobs. How can we better take care of them? So, I don't know. Let's do our best to be a community, a worldwide community. I've never liked the idea of the church being a community. And people say, well, I go to church for community. No, the church should be a part of a living, breathing community that already exists. I've often thought about the Andy Griffith Show, where, you have the sheriff, you have the barber, you have the town drunk, the church, Aunt B goes to on Sunday. That's a community, and a community of people who kind of depend on each other. And that's what we should be, as part of a community, not a community. I don't want Revolution to ever be a community. I don't think any church should be the community. I think we should play a part in the community. And right now, I will tell you this, is I feel like the person that, helps me with my groceries the other day plays more of a vital role right now in the world than me getting up here and talking to you about Jesus. I have kids. I have a little girl who needs to, she's getting potty trained and she needs to sleep in diapers. I need those diapers for her to sleep in. I need to get food for my kids to eat. I could live on anything, But my kids need that, and they need healthy options, and so many kids do, and that's a thing, is I think it's sad that everybody's ran to the grocery stores and ransacked the groceries for, diapers and toilet paper and all that stuff, when there's so many of us who need that together. And maybe that's something we also need to realize as a community, is that hoarding is hurting our neighbors. We've got to make sure our neighbors have enough to do, and have enough for themselves as well as we get through this. Maybe we should learn to be minimalists as we go through this, and to live with what we need, to have what we need, because if you're out hoarding, what difference are you from the billionaires who aren't helping anybody right now, who are telling their workers to, good luck, eat well, hope you do good, but I'm not going to pay you if you're not working. What different is it that we're taking people's food out of their mouths and taking their, they can't wipe their asses because we're paranoid, So anyway, those are some things to think about, but I hope we realize that this is a chance for us to be a real community of grace, to really show grace. And I think about those bracelets of what would Jesus do, and maybe when they take your temperature at the grocery store, they should also put a "What would Jesus do" bracelet on you as you shop. What would Jesus buy? So I don't know. It's harder for me to preach in a time like this, which is funny because I'm usually really good at talking in the midst of crisis, but I'm not used to every single person being in crisis, and we're all there. We're all in this together. And so if we can build community and be a better example to people, then let's do that. I'm glad that I'm not having to focus on arguing about theology. That seems dumb right now when so many people are getting sick and elderly people are dying and things like that, Oh, we lost me for a second. I'm back. So for me right now is just keeping it simple, using what I need and leaving the rest for what others need, and being grateful for those folks that we may have ignored, and supporting them in ways that we can, and being grateful for those we have taken for granted. I almost feel like, putting together like writing little cards, it's like, I'm so sorry that for the first, 40 years of my life, I've taken you for granted and not seen you, but now I see you. It's like this disease has put a huge highlighter on people, on human beings, on servers and grocery store clerks and truck drivers and IT guys. Think about how dependent we are right now on the internet and online. It's just taken all these people and reminded us how valuable they are to us, to the point where it's like, right now is probably not the best time to argue and kill each other over politics or theology. right now might be the best time to just say, I see you. Thank you. And hopefully that it'll cause us to want to fight for their rights as well. You know, I mean, I've spent a lot of my career fighting for the rights of others. But making sure that people that we take for granted, we don't take for granted anymore, and we fight for their rights. You know, if you're a Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. People should make livable wages, you know, because we can't live without them. And we know that now. And so, yeah, we're sorry we missed you before, but we're grateful to have you now. And we won't make the same mistake again. So please don't take each other for granted. You know, let's be here for one another. A community of humanity together. And love your family. Reach out to your family. Keep posted. Keep checking in on each other if you can. I have not been the best at that, but I'm going to get better at it. And I even talked to my dad a couple days ago. We don't really talk ever. We still definitely have some different views on how things are going, but, you know, it's not a bad time to do that. Maybe reconnect. Just realize what's important. I just really hope we realize what's important. You know, and in the Bible, it says what's important is faith expressing itself through love, you know, and whether you're a person of faith or not, expressing love is, to me, what is important. And when you love people, you want to make sure they're taken care of. You want to make sure they're appreciated. You know, it's like love illuminates people. You know, when you have a romantic relationship and you see someone that you romantically like and you're attracted to, and it's like they just glow, you know, and you're just attracted and you're just like, they're illuminated, you know. This is a time to let you know, illuminate, you know, let those people be illuminated and let them know, like, wow, thank you. And you're appreciated. I know it means a lot to me when people tell me they appreciate me, or I get texts every now and then like, oh, your work's meant so much to me. And I mean, it means the world to me, you know, and now it's time for me to realize that, you know, I just can't walk blindly through life anymore. I can't wait for this thing to be over and us all to move forward. But anyway, I'm just going down a rabbit hole. We're going to finish up, but I guess we could still try to do Afterglow a little bit, which is when you guys just kind of ask questions or push back or give feedback. Or you can talk about, you know, what you're doing to kind of survive and, you know, what's going on in your life, what's your worries, how are your kids. I know it's strange for me being a co-parent, you know, and learning to co-parent in this kind of situation as well is really bizarre. And I'm grateful for having like things like the Co-Parent Collective on Instagram. I can read other people's experiences with this as well. So, you know, if you want to share your experiences and hope, you know, go ahead. We also have Caleb in the audience, so I'm sure he'll have something to maybe say.
I will talk shop just real quick because I noticed we're on a little bit of a lag. So while we're waiting for that to catch up online, I want to say, because you mentioned it, Jay, about connecting online within the Revolution community or sub community, I guess, because we're not just the community. Yeah, so we have the Revolution Church community group on Facebook. And it's kind of small, actually. I'm surprised how small it is. So I'm sure maybe a lot of people just don't know about it.
I just signed up last week. I didn't know about it either.
Yeah, but it's you can just search Revolution Church Community. I think might be the only one with that name. But
it's a Facebook, pops, right?
Yeah, it's on Facebook. It pops right up. I will say, just a couple people recently tried to join and didn't answer. There's like just 3 questions that pop up.
Yeah,
it's very generic. It's just like, will you be respectful? Pretty much. So please just answer those, because like Robert and I are the admins, and we can't approve you if you don't answer the questions. I'm sure some people just like don't think of it or just kind of gloss over it because it doesn't make you answer them.
Okay.
But yeah, please just answer. Just say that you'll be respectful, and we'll let anybody join, and we won't kick you out as long as you're not a dick to people. So yeah.
I had to answer a bunch of questions when I joined the Social Distortion discussion page, but they made me answer like, what were their first 2 albums and what was their first single? I was like,
trivia.
I don't know.
That's funny.
Do you see any questions coming up there, Caleb, on the old phone?
No questions yet. Someone had a great idea. Amanda said maybe we could do like a Zoom Bible study.
Oh, yeah.
Within the Revolution.
That would be fun because, I mean, if we're going to be in this for a few months, that would be really fun.
I think that's a great idea. I love that. And you can, with Zoom, you can see each other's faces and interact. I think that's a great idea. Maybe we can brainstorm that in the Revolution community. Of course, my pops is always chiming in. Wonder where I got it from. But he said, keep me posted if you do the Zoom thing. And then he just quoted some verses, and he had a funny little quip here. He said, love one another as I have loved you. We rejoice in our sufferings. And then he said, greet one another with a holy kiss from 6 feet away.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
And
here comes some questions.
Tell Jesus to wash his hands.
So Connie asks, Jay, what music are you listening to lately to keep your spirits up?
I've been listening to a lot of 60s and 70s reggae music. When punk first started, there wasn't a lot of punk. So they would listen to a lot of reggae because there was like 5 punk albums. And so I just kind of went down a rabbit hole and started listening to a lot of reggae. It also makes you feel like you're at the beach a little bit. So I'm listening to a lot of reggae. I've been listening to a lot of Clash, which is weird because I go through like periods of like Clash and then no Clash at all and then back to Clash. So I've been listening to some of that. And that's been encouraging to me is I like that idea of questioning the system, but I also like the idea of future unwritten. You can be what you want to do. You can write the future yourself. You can do whatever you do what you love. I love that idea of the punk rock ethic is follow your passion, do it yourself, and there are no rules. That's one thing I like about the Clash is that they started as a punk band and they evolved. And that's what a lot of those bands did. And people were like, oh, that's not punk rock. They betrayed punk, And it's like, no, it's the thing that says, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to just make it whatever I want to be. And to me, that's ultimately punk, is being able to be what you want to be and create new things and bring things together. So that's been really encouraging to me for some of that. I've also ordered some new books on Amazon that I'm hopefully going to be reading soon. So I'll share some of that with you once I get a better idea.
I want to point out, so somebody named Thomas, literally in real time just now, requested to join Revolution Church Community. Thomas, answer the questions. You didn't answer any of the questions. You're probably listening right now. Just answer those questions, Thomas, and we'll let you join.
No more doubting.
Yeah, it's...
Because it asked me if I wanted to make a little something about myself.
Yeah.
And I
you
said,
don't have to do that.
And I said no.
That's fine. Just say that you'll be respectful.
Just say you'll be respectful. That's the only question you have to answer.
Yeah. Sean is saying he loves the Clash, reggae, and second wave ska.
Yes. I had a lot of ska in the 90s, like traditional ska, so I don't listen to it as much just because it was pumped into my head.
Okay, Jeremy, you just now requested to join and didn't answer the questions, man. Come on.
Okay, guys, you got to answer the questions if you want to join
It's
the
just saying
revolution.
you'll be respectful.
Just say you'll be respectful. Just click, bloop. You'll be respectful. Maybe they don't want to be respectful.
Maybe not. But then
Maybe we should be
join.
like, I'll be disrespectful and still let them join.
Yeah.
All are welcome, but Facebook makes you have questions in order to start these groups.
Answering no is almost better than not answering at all. What movies are you watching with your kids, Jay? Asks Sean.
Been watching. Ordered some 1960s cartoons from Batman cartoons, and so watching some of those with him and Minnie Mouse cartoons because Minnie, my daughter, whose actual name is Amelia, but she loves Minnie Mouse. So I've been watching some Minnie Mouse cartoons. Right now, I can't afford cable, so I've been doing DVDs. I really want to order the 1960s Batman TV show, the whole season. I'm looking for that right now to watch with the kids. We've watched Monsters, Inc. and things like that. Because we've been, just stuck in the house, so the kids have, wanted to watch a lot. I think I'm going to try to do some more, drawings with them and maybe some Play-Doh. What advice books?
Oh, Thomas is saying he answered the questions. Maybe there's a lag.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so yeah, we just had 2 more people try to join. Maybe there's something wrong on our end then.
What would
Sorry
Christy ask?
Okay, Thomas, I'll approve you. Sorry.
Did
Oh yeah, Christy G's asking if you had any book recommendations.
I mean, yeah, I definitely have book recommendations. You can actually go online and read the letter from a Birmingham jail. I would recommend reading that. That's really amazing. Also, can you make a Spotify playlist of your favorite songs for us? Yes, I can, Chrissy. I'm also going to make you a Spotify playlist of Sinead O'Connor so you can start promoting her on your show. Yeah, we can do that. Let's do a Spotify playlist and put it on the Revolution Spotify.
I like it. That's a good idea.
Good idea. Yeah.
I've been reading Missing Out by Adam Phillips. Barry Taylor recommended that.
Oh, is it good?
Yeah, it's very object cause of desire centric, like about, pursuing the American dream and nothing's going to, no thing that you can achieve that you think is going to fulfill you will fulfill you.
Oh, that sounds excellent.
Yeah, so I'll probably get some material from reading that.
Yeah, that's really good. I just got I got both of Johnny Lydon's books, Johnny Rotten, as most people know him, that I'm going to hopefully start reading. The problem is social media just gets in my way, and I end up looking too much on my freaking Instagram because that's where I'm at all the time. If you're looking for me, just follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm at. But yeah, so I'm trying to think. Hold on. You know what? Hold on a second. Have a look at the black curtain behind us.
In the meantime, Pam commented she's reading What is the Bible by Rob Bell.
Oh, that's
Great one.
Great book.
Very good one.
That Rob Bell can write a book.
Oh, yeah, no joke.
Oh, okay. So I'm reading Finishing Insurrection by Peter Rollins. Really good book. I'm also reading this book here, Emancipation After Hegel. It's a deep read, but it's a good read. I'm reading some Camus. How do you spell Albert Camus's last name? Is it Camus? Camus. Reading some of him. Yeah, so there's a lot of good books. If you haven't read The Ragamuffin Gospel, it's one of my favorite books. There's another book called Messy Spirituality that I really like. There's just trying to think of like books that are like super life-changing books. A New Kind of Christianity, which was like a book by Brian McLaren that he wrote a few years ago, which was kind of a play off of the trilogy he did, but it was like the book he did after that. That was a really good book. Anything by Martin Luther King Jr. is just going to blow your mind. I've read some books on nonviolence. I'll have to put together some lists. Maybe I'll start tweeting some books I've read and Instagramming some books I've read. Don't forget your books. Yes, and then there's Jay Bakker's books, Son of a Preacher Man, and Fall to Grace, and Faith and Doubt. Those are my books. So, I especially like to sell a few copies of Faith and Doubt. I'd actually like to get the rights back and rewrite the book and re-release it because it didn't sell that well. And I'm also trying to work on doing a sequel to Son of a Preacher Man. With all the films and stuff coming out, we figured we might do a sequel to that book as well. Gandhi has a great book on prayer, someone said. So thank you for recommending my books. I like Paul Tillich's sermon books. Shaking the Foundations is really good, and you can find that on eBay.
Yes.
Pretty easy and pretty affordable. So yeah. What was the? I'm trying to remember what the book I was. The Pete's book I read before this one.
Whoa, what were you reading?
It was really good.
It was. Oh.
Do you remember?
It's evading me. It was one of his earlier ones, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Anything by Pete Rollins is pretty awesome right now.
Was it Insurrection? Isn't that?
No, Insurrection is what I just showed.
Oh, my bad.
It's the other one. All right. What else are the other questions? Sean probably has some really good recommendations on books about anarchy. He's recommended some to me. He's also given me a lot of pamphlets on anarchy to read. Anarchy's kind of an amazing concept. So you might want to check some of those out. Nadia Boltz has some good books too. Yep, she's pretty solid. Thomas Merton, yes. Rollins is great. YouTube his videos, guys. Yes. See, The Idolatry of God by Peter Rollins. Yes.
Was it Idolatry of God?
I don't know if that was the one I was reading or not, but
I can't remember. How not to no.
It wasn't How Not to Speak of God. No. That was his first one. If I saw the cover, I would know. I just went to reach for my phone and then realized I'm filming this with my phone.
People can hunt back through the archives.
I'll put it up later. So, yeah, there's some good stuff out there.
It's kind of a cool opportunity for people to connect, you know?
Yeah, it is a good opportunity.
Communicate with each other.
Any other questions? I don't even have my watch on today. Love Wins is a good one. That's true.
It's noon. If that's what you're looking for.
It's noon?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're starting closer to 11 with this streaming stuff as opposed to the physical
I know.
Congregation meetings.
So we got nowhere to be.
Yeah, don't get used to it, listeners.
Yeah, don't get used to us being on time, folks. And podcasts. There's lots of good podcasts out there to listen to. Christy G's podcast. What would I call the sequel to Son of a Preacher Man?
Grandson of a Preacher Man?
Grandson of a Preacher... I don't know. Son of a Preacher Man and Tammy Faye, or How to Become a Punk. I don't know. I haven't thought about it yet. Yeah, Learning Anarchism from Christians is good. There's that book, Christian Anarchy, that I read. I liked that book. I don't read any fiction, so
Oh, The Shack is another... That's a fiction recommendation.
That's a fiction recommendation. There's a really good podcast on The Clash on Spotify, read by Chuck D. I mean, Chuck D hosts it, and you become a Clash expert within 6 listens. So it's so funny what I consider work. I was like, yeah, Pete, I've been doing some work. He's like, oh, yeah, what are you listening to? And I'm like, yeah, the Clash documentary. He's like, Clash? He's like, that's how you do work? I was like, yep, I get inspired by different things than you do. Well, is that it?
Looks like it.
Well, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. We will try to be here every Sunday and keep you up to date. So we love you guys. Stay safe out there. Do us a favor and stay inside. If you can, that would be great. Because honestly, I've seen a few Christian leaders who aren't staying inside and doing things like that. It just makes us look like assholes, you know? And it really does hurt other people. So if you can, stay inside, or be safe. If you work at a grocery store or things like that, you know that we love you and we support you and we are grateful for you. And, let us know what you need. If we can help, we will. This is the tough thing right now, and I'll end on this. Is, Caleb's in bed from breaking his leg 3 times in 3 places, and Revolution wants to continue to go. And we're all just, but we're all in a financial struggle right now. If you have able to support Revolution, or Caleb, whose GoFundMe should be right above me on the Instagram. I mean, on the Facebook. We have a page for him. We could really use your support, but I know things are tight right now, so I don't want to push that because we're all trying to survive. But just let you know we're going through this too, and if you think that the $1,000 is socialism, you don't want to support that, or you think it's a handout from Trump and you don't want to support that, you just send it to Revolution. We'll figure out something to do with it. All right, everybody. Grateful for you guys. Thank you so much. Lots of love, and we'll see you next week. All right, bye-bye.
we'd like to remind you that our ministry is supported 100% by listeners like you. To make your 100% tax-deductible donation today, please visit revolutionchurch.com/donate. You can also learn more by clicking the donate section on the website.
Hi, I'm Caleb with Post Christian Podcasting. If you enjoyed this episode, you might also like The Sacred Collective.
We are The Sacred Collective.
This isn't an argument you're going to win, and not only that, you don't want to win it, even if it was. So you're just playing a different game. And so for Rob to even talk about this, we'd need to start talking about the Bible. And before we talk about the Bible, we'd need to start talking about duality and how we read literature and its complexities to context and history and textual context and all these different elements, which is never going to happen in 2 minutes. And even if it was, you gave 2 hours, would this person even be able to listen to that kind of conversation? Probably not yet.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have the wherewithal at times just to go, hey, we're going to disagree. I know that's going to make you upset. The amount of people I've said, look, I know that you're doing your duty and you feel obliged to tell me I'm a heretic, that my teaching will be judged, that I'm leading people astray. I really understand that. I used to be like you.
Yeah.
And I really value your zeal, your passion, how much you love God and how much you're faithful for what you believe.
Yeah.
I just don't see things that way. You haven't convinced me, and I don't think you will convince me. I know I'm not going to convince you of what I believe. Should we agree to disagree? Let's say you've done your obligation. God's not going to hold it against you. He'll hold it against me if I'm wrong. But thank you. I really appreciate you. I admire your passion and your zeal. I really do. Mm-hmm. I wish I was as passionate and zealous for what I believe as you are for what you. I really do. But we're not going to go anywhere. And 9 times out of 10, that conversation goes okay. That's about as positive as I can say it. Sure. But it goes okay.
That was a Post Christian podcast.